And there we have the very first 6.5 Creedmoor made to my personal specifications. Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce, and now today we're not talking about reloading. That will be a later video. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so then YouTube does not hide that video from you. But today we're talking about a really interesting question I got from a viewer about his Frankenstein Deuce and half. And I thought it would be really good and fitting to make a video about that because there's a reason why all my videos about deuce and a halves especially, I never just say an absolute truth, because so many deuce and a halves, even when they appear similar from a distance, are completely different under the hood. So if I tell you X, Y, and Z, that's probably going to be right, but I cannot be guaranteeing that because so many deuce and a halves have been modified in the field and they are completely different when they get back to home and into civilian hands, just like his. Let's talk about his deuce and a half. John here is the proud new owner of an M35A3. So that's basically an old school M35A2 like I have, but it has gone through the rebuilding process and has been given a updated Caterpillar engine and an automatic transmission, along with the super single tires versus the duals in the back, and usually has a central tire inflation system, CTIS, in that as well, which always breaks down. But his is different. Let me run through the specifications of his M35A3. It should be an M35A3, but it's slightly different. It has a Caterpillar 3116 engine, that is correct, for the M35A3s, but it has a 5-speed manual transmission, which is not correct. It has the electronic windshield wipers, which could be either way. Usually they had the electronic by then, but not always. It has air over hydraulic steering. That's pretty cool. That's an extra bonus that not all of the M35A3s have. It also has these super single tires, which means it's going to be much better off-roading than my deuce and a half is. And it does not have the central tire inflation system, which means that's not going to break down and leak out all your air. Well, that's also a bonus there. Also has no winch. Some of them actually, the M35A3s had a hydraulic winch versus a PTO-driven winch. So there's a lot of like leaking and plumbing along with those as well. So those were a lot more of a heartache than the old school winches were. And it has the old deuce and a half nose on it versus the upgraded M35A3 nose. Who knows? Who knows why? That's why you never can have an absolute answer to a deuce and a half question, because they're all so randomly different. But down to the brass tacks of his question here is, after all that information about how bizarrely different his deuce and a half is, what kind of oil goes in the engine? What kind of fluid goes in the transmission, the transfer case, and the axles? Well, that's a good question. Let's talk about that right now. First of all, let's talk about that Caterpillar engine. The Cat 3116 engine is a very good engine. Now, when you compare them to other and more modern Cat engines, it's kind of on the low end of the totem pole. But when you compare that 3116 engine to the old deuce and a half multi-fuel engine, it's a pretty good engine in comparison. If you Google what kind of motor oil to put into a Caterpillar 3116 engine, you're going to get a whole hodgepodge of different answers, because those engines were used in a whole bunch of different types of applications, including marine applications. I think Caterpillar used a different type of high pressure fuel pump or something of that nature. Marine applications are out of my wheelhouse, so I could be wrong on that. But for some reason, there was something internal in that engine that required a special engine oil, which only Caterpillar usually provided. It's a straight weight oil type thing, and Caterpillar was the best source for that. So if you go on the internet and ask about what kind of oil to put in a 3116 engine, that's what they're going to tell you to get. The oil you want to use in the Cat engines for the deuce and a half is standard Rotella 1540 diesel grade oil. That's all you need. It's the best stuff for that application. It's the best stuff that goes into the multi-fuel engine. It's the best stuff that goes into the Caterpillar engines for the deuce and a half. And it's the best stuff to put into a 7.3 liter in my F250. It just has all the vitamins and minerals that those engines need. And no, I am not sponsored by Rotella, but I am available for sponsorship. The other oddball situation with John's deuce and a half is the fact that it has a 5-speed transmission. Not the Allison automatic transmission, but a manual transmission. That is pretty rare. You don't really see those mounted to the Caterpillar engines very often. I guess it's possible, I don't know. But it should be, again, I can't be positive. It could be some oddball transmission, but it should be the Spicer 3053 or 3053A. Now, before you take my advice on what fluid to use in that transmission, make sure you crawl under your deuce and a half and check out the data plate stamped on the side of that transmission. There's a picture of where it should be. And it should say Spicer as the manufacturer and then model number 3053 or 3053A. And if it's one of those, especially if it has that dogleg transmission in it, which you'll know by driving it, then you can use either the government standard, the GL5, that's yellow metal safe. Make sure it does say yellow metal safe on that or some designation of that, and GL5. That's what the government uses it forever, and it is fine. It won't hurt the transmission to use that, but it's not going to give you the best shifting. And Spicer acknowledges that, and they suggest straight weight 30, 40, or 50 grade non-detergent oil. Non-detergent is very important. It cannot be detergent oil. I find that 30 weight oil is a little bit too thin for hot climates, and 50 weight oil is a little bit too thick for cold climates. So I thread a needle with 40 weight oil here, and that has been very, very good for me. But again, you can go with GL5 and it's fine. It's just the shifting is a little bit stiff. The same rules apply for the transfer case. You can use either the straight 40 or 50 weight oil or GL5. I will stick with GL5 with a transfer case just because it's easy to get a hold of. You can find it everywhere, and you're not really concerned about stiff shifting for the transfer case. That's just not a big deal or a concern. Also, you can use the same GL5 80 weight 90 for the axles as well, as long as those axles haven't been modified to be either lockers or as a limited slip. So make sure they've not been modified for that as well. If they're open diffs, go ahead and throw a GL5 in there. Well, John, thanks for asking that question. That was a very unusual question. I hope that helps you out in your future deuce and a half ownership days. And I hope this illustrates to everybody else how different every deuce and a half can be, because I mean, the government ordered them in so many different weird configurations, and many of them were modified in the field and then brought back still modified. Well, guys, that is it for me today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like and go subscribe. A lot more is on the way. If you have any comments, questions, or show ideas, leave that in the comment box of the video. I try to answer as many as possible. Sometimes they become videos like this one, so go ahead and ask those questions. And as always, you guys have a great day. See ya.